Welcome back to my channel. This story begins with a clip we've all seen before. Kody Brown standing tall, his voice heavy with purpose. This is about a legacy, a place where our whole family can gather for generations. This is for all my children. The music swells. The camera fades. But then, silence. A shaky phone video cuts through the illusion. Maddie Brush, her face streaked with tears, looks into the lens, her voice trembling. That legacy for 18 children? It was a betrayal for 13. An explosive new insider report reveals that what Kody called a family dream was, in truth, a meticulously planned legal trap. One that would strip Christine, Janelle, and Meri's children of everything. This is the story they never wanted you to hear. Welcome back to Sister Wives Crew, your #1 source for exclusive theories and insider truths that the mainstream will never dare to touch. If you believe in uncovering what's been buried, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what I'm about to reveal is the biggest scandal in Sister Wives history. The dream of Coyote Pass, that shimmering symbol of unity, was supposed to be the Browns' forever home. It was the promised land, the reward after decades of sacrifice. Kody sold it to us, and to his wives, like a sacred covenant. He painted it as a legacy for everyone. A place where grandchildren would play, where all 4 wives would finally stand on equal ground. And for a moment, it looked real. We saw Janelle, the practical one, dreaming of stability after years of rentals. Christine, the heart of the family, picturing porches full of laughter. Even Meri, always on the edge, clinging to the hope that her little corner of Coyote Pass would mean she still belonged. But behind that dream was a contract, and behind that contract was a lie. For years, the wives poured everything into that dirt. Their money, their homes, their hope. Christine used the sale of her Las Vegas house as a down payment. Janelle scrimped and saved until she became the financial backbone of the entire project. They weren't just investing in property, they were investing in trust. And that trust was weaponized against them. According to Maddie Brush, it all came crashing down one night during a tearful Instagram live. The lighting was poor, the video shaky, but her message cut like a knife. "My mom found out the truth," Maddie said, her voice breaking. It wasn't sudden. It was something she'd been feeling for months. It started with a piece of paper. Routine legal paperwork, Kody and Robyn said. They told the wives it was for estate planning, a way to protect the land for the family. "We just need to streamline the deeds," Kody likely said. "We need to make sure the land stays in the family." It sounded reasonable, logical, and it preyed on the one thing those women had left: faith in their husband. But when Janelle read the fine print, her world shattered. Hidden deep inside was a single clause, a legal poison disguised as family unity, the right of survivorship. To most people, that phrase means nothing. But in the eyes of the law, it means everything. It means that when one owner dies, their share automatically goes to the surviving names on the deed. No wills, no questions, no children inheriting what's theirs. And who were those surviving names? Kody, Robyn, and only their children. That means if Janelle, Christine, or Meri pass away, their land, their investment, their legacy wouldn't go to Logan, Maddie, Garrison, or Mike Helty. It would all funnel directly back to Kody and Robyn. A family legacy, yes, but only for 5. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't sloppy paperwork. It was a deliberate, cold-blooded transfer of wealth, a betrayal hidden beneath the language of love and loyalty. Kody used his authority as patriarch. Robyn played the perfect accomplice. Soft voice, gentle words, promising protection, and family unity. But the protection was never for everyone. It was for them. And the numbers? They're staggering. Each developed plot of Coyote Pass could be worth $500,000 or more. Multiply that by 4, and you're looking at over $2 million worth of stolen legacy. For the wives who built that dream brick by brick, it wasn't just money. It was faith. It was home. It was their children's future. And in one signature, Kody and Robyn took it all. This was never about one family. It was about creating a monarchy where the king and his chosen queen ruled alone. The rest, they were pawns. And now, with the truth out in the open, the empire Kody built on loyalty and love is beginning to crumble. That's not just land we're talking about. That's legacy money. A potential inheritance of over $500,000 per wife, per lineage. For Janelle's 6 children, for Christine's 6, and for Meri's only child, this was never just dirt and dreams. It was stability, a foundation, It was college tuition, business capital, the down payment on a future they'd been told was secure. It was the very definition of generational wealth, the same promise Kody had preached for over a decade. But now, with Maddie's revelation, that dream has turned to ash. Because this wasn't just about names being erased from a deed, it was about futures being stolen. What Kody and Robyn allegedly did was far more sinister. It wasn't a clerical oversight or a misunderstanding. It was a transfer of wealth, a calculated, deliberate funneling of power and assets from the many to the few, all executed under the soft, smiling language of family unity. The so-called heirloom hoax, as insiders are now calling it, forces us to re-examine everything we thought we knew about the Browns' dream on Coyote Pass. Every argument, every strange delay, every baffling decision, suddenly it all makes sense. It wasn't chaos. It was choreography. Remember Kody's obsession with building one big house? At the time, fans dismissed it as sentimentality, the patriarch's nostalgic wish to relive the Lehi days under one roof. But what if it wasn't nostalgia at all? What if it was control? In one massive home, Kody and Robyn would have been the center of gravity, emotionally, financially, and legally. One home meant communal ownership, and communal ownership meant no individual rights. It would have been infinitely easier to consolidate every asset into their hands. Christine's refusal to accept that plan, her firm no, may have been more than marital defiance. It may have been the moment Kody and Robyn realized they needed a new strategy. That strategy would later reveal itself as the right of survivorship clause, the legal dagger hidden beneath years of family rhetoric. When the OG wives pushed for separate homes, they weren't just asserting independence. They were, perhaps unknowingly, fighting for self-preservation. Something deep inside them, a primal instinct honed through years of emotional imbalance, told them not to hand over everything. They couldn't articulate it, but they felt it. That building one giant house under Kody's watchful eye would mean losing the last shred of autonomy they still had. And then there were the delays. Years of watching Kody stall, blame, and deflect. He pointed fingers at the city, at the wives, at the cost of utilities. Always an excuse, always a reason progress couldn't happen yet. He let Janelle live in an RV on that barren land, pretending it was part of her journey. But what if it wasn't neglect? What if it was strategy? Because why rush to build on land you don't fully control? Why pour money, especially the wives' money, into development that would strengthen their legal claims? By keeping the property undeveloped, Kody and Robyn kept the stakes low while working quietly behind the scenes to finalize their legal takeover. Letting Janelle struggle in that RV might have served a dual purpose. It created urgency, desperation. A woman living in harsh conditions is far more likely to sign whatever papers promise relief. And it ensured she wouldn't keep investing, wouldn't keep building equity that could challenge Robyn's eventual claim. The longer the land sat empty, the more emotionally and financially exhausted the wives became. They were tired. Tired of fighting, tired of waiting, tired of being the ones to hold it all together. And exhaustion breeds compliance. Even Robyn's behavior now takes on a chilling new light. All those tears, all that hand-wringing about not having her forever home, her resistance to building, her insistence on living in a luxury rental, it all played out like emotional fragility. But what if that wasn't weakness at all? What if it was tactical? By staying in comfort, she avoided investing a cent into land that wasn't yet legally hers. She could maintain her lifestyle, play the victim, and buy time. Time for Kody to finish what he'd started on paper. Her tears were her camouflage. Every delay, every emotional breakdown, was part of a timeline perfectly crafted to end with her family's total ownership. Even the infamous debate about which plot she wanted. Remember that? The trees, the view, the privacy? In hindsight, that argument wasn't about aesthetics. It was about securing the heart of the kingdom. The central, most valuable parcel, the one she knew would one day anchor the empire Kody was quietly handing to her children. And then came Maddie's video, the smoking gun. Her voice cracked, her face wet with tears as she said the words no daughter should ever have to say about her father. The pieces fell into place, and suddenly years of chaos looked like a pattern. Kody's dream wasn't a legacy of love. It was a blueprint for betrayal. He used their faith, their loyalty, and their labor to build an inheritance that excluded them all. He promised them security and delivered a legal noose. Maddie's heartbreak wasn't about losing land. It was about losing trust. About realizing that the man who once claimed to lead a family in faith had instead engineered their downfall, turning a promise of unity into a dynasty of deceit. Dynasty of deceit. This revelation changes everything. It reframes Kody Brown not as a father of legacy, but as a man of elimination. For Kody, the OG-13 weren't his heritage. They were his obstacles. Loose ends from an earlier chapter of his life that needed to be quietly, legally, and financially severed. Their mothers, Christine, Janelle, and Meri, were never true partners in his grand design. They were investors. Temporary financiers who had unknowingly funded a dynasty that excluded their own bloodlines. And that's what makes this alleged betrayal so horrifying. Because it's not just financial, it's spiritual. It's the slow, deliberate erasure of a legacy that was promised to 18 children and handed instead to 5. Imagine for a moment being Janelle Brown, a woman who has spent her entire adult life in the shadow of loyalty, who followed this man from state to state, home to home, chasing a vision that never quite included her, who worked long hours, scrimped every dollar, and poured her life savings into a piece of land she believed would one day bear her name, a patch of earth that was supposed to be her reward for decades of obedience. She believed in the dream of Coyote Pass so deeply that she lived in an RV on that dry Arizona dirt, baking under the desert sun, telling herself it would all be worth it. That one day she would sit on her porch and watch her grandchildren play on her land. And then she finds out that the papers she signed, papers her husband assured her would protect the family, were actually her children's disinheritance notice. It's betrayal on a scale so cruel it borders on biblical. Every sacrifice she ever made suddenly feels meaningless. Every promise, every word of unity, every tear shed around that dream is exposed as manipulation. In Kody's eyes, Janelle and her children were never legacy. They were collateral. Now picture Christine, the one who saw the storm coming before anyone else did. The woman everyone thought left for emotional reasons, for intimacy, for self-love. But what if the truth was colder, more pragmatic? What if Christine realized long before anyone else that the emotional abandonment was only half the betrayal? Christine isn't naive. She's observant. She watched Kody slowly fuse his life into Robyn's orbit, financially, emotionally, and legally. She saw the way decisions stopped being family decisions and started being Kody and Robyn's decisions. She could feel the walls closing in. Her fight to take the proceeds from her Las Vegas house wasn't just about independence. It was about escape. She wasn't asking for cash. She was extracting her investment from a collapsing empire before the king could lock the vault. And now, in light of Maddie's revelation, Christine's decision looks less like a rebellion and more like a rescue mission. Because had she stayed, her children, her 6 bright, independent kids, might have been erased right alongside Janelle's. Maddie's tears would hit Christine like a blade of vindication and heartbreak all at once. She didn't just walk away from a toxic marriage. She fled a financial trap, one that would have bound her lineage to a promise that was never meant to include them. Her fairy tale didn't simply end. It was unmasked as a calculated horror story. And then there's Meri, the first wife, the original believer, the one who sacrificed everything, even her legal marriage, so that Robyn could have a place in the family. For a decade, Meri stood on the outside looking in, surviving on crumbs of attention and fleeting phone calls. Always hopeful, always waiting for a sign that she still mattered. She would have been the easiest target. Desperate for inclusion, starved for belonging. The moment Kody presented those papers, framing them as a family protection plan, Meri would have signed without hesitation, eager to prove she was still loyal, still part of something. To discover now that her signature wasn't proof of devotion, but a tool of her own undoing, that it was used to disinherit her only child, Leon, would be the cruelest humiliation imaginable. It would confirm her worst fear, that her loyalty wasn't just ignored, it was exploited. That she wasn't excluded by accident, but by design. This isn't just dysfunction, this is dynastic warfare. Kody and Robyn didn't preserve a family heirloom, they manufactured one. A private kingdom built on the savings, sweat, and sacrifices of 3 women and 13 children, who were never meant to benefit from it. The promise of Coyote Pass, the shining dream of unity and legacy, now looks like the family's final crime scene. The place where trust, love, and the futures of 13 children were signed away in ink, in silence, and in daylight. But we are only at the beginning of this story. The documents, the signatures, the sequence of events that led to this alleged betrayal, they all need to be uncovered. Because this wasn't a random act of greed. It was a structured operation. To understand how it worked, we have to understand the world Kody created. For decades, the Brown family operated not on contracts, but on faith. Spiritual marriages, handshake deals, trust instead of law. And in that trust lay their greatest vulnerability. A vulnerability Kody and Robyn allegedly exploited with surgical precision. Bringing a lawyer into the fold would have looked like progress. "We're protecting the family," Kody might have said. "We're making this official." To the wives, it would have felt like maturity, like growth, the first real step toward legitimacy. But this lawyer wasn't their lawyer. He was Kody and Robyn's. His allegiance wasn't to the family as a whole, but to the two who paid his retainer. Every update or revision was one more layer in the foundation of their empire. Picture the scene, a dinner at Robyn's mansion. The lights warm, the table set. Kody standing at the head of the table, papers in hand, his tone calm but commanding. "This is about protecting our legacy," he says. "This is about the children." Robyn beside him, nodding through tears, adding soft words about unity and love. Janelle hesitates. Meri asks a question. Kody's eyes flash. "Don't you trust me?" he says, voice dripping with wounded pride. "After everything we've been through, you think I'd do something to hurt us?" And just like that, the guilt. The pressure. The manipulation. The wives fold. One by one, they sign, believing they're preserving the family. But what they're really signing is the deed to their own erasure. The right of survivorship wasn't a clause. It was a crown. And Kody and Robyn placed it firmly on their own heads. The clause looked harmless. Just another block of legal jargon buried in a pile of paperwork, the kind of thing no one really questions. A lawyer might have glossed over it, explaining it with polished, confusing phrases. It's just to ensure a smooth transition of title and help the family avoid probate court. To the wives, that would have sounded smart and responsible. A smooth transition? Avoiding expensive court delays? Of course they'd agree. It sounded like protection. But that phrase, smooth transition, what was the trap? Because what it really meant was a smooth transition into Kody and Robyn's pockets. A quiet, calculated erasure of everyone else's inheritance. That single clause turned their ownership into a life estate, temporary possession that would vanish the moment they passed. Their children? Left with nothing but memories. And the timing of this alleged maneuver is just as sinister. It likely wasn't recent. This plan was set in motion years ago, maybe right after the land was bought. The best time to present such documents? When chaos ruled, when the wives were distracted, exhausted, and emotionally vulnerable. Think about it, the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. The family fractured, communication strained, everyone living under Kody's strict isolating rules. Christine mentally checking out, Janelle worried sick about her sons, Meri completely alone, and amid all that fear and confusion, Kody slides a document across the table, promising security and stability. Who wouldn't sign? Especially Janelle, the practical one, the builder, the dreamer. She'd waited for years to put down roots. Yet Kody and Robyn stalled construction, keeping her trapped, her money tied up in worthless dirt. Then Kody, ever the manipulator, probably said something like, "Janelle, the bank just needs the deed structured this way so we can get financing." A lie, but a believable one. Backed into a corner, desperate to build her home, Janelle might have signed, trusting that the man she'd stood beside for decades wouldn't betray her or her children. But that's exactly what he did. This alleged hoax also explains something chilling: Kody's growing hatred toward his older children. Over time, we watched him dismantle every bond with the OG-13, accusing them of betrayal, calling them disrespectful, and washing his hands of them. He said, "The whole family's a mess. It's not a team anymore." But what if that was never about rules or rebellion? What if it was strategy? Because it's easier to disinherit children once you've emotionally disowned them. If Kody convinces himself that his older kids are traitors, taking their inheritance doesn't feel like theft. It feels like justice. Robyn's part in this is just as dark. She wasn't a victim, she was a strategist. For years, she's cried unity, pleaded for peace, preached loyalty. But maybe those tears were the smokescreen while the legal machinery of betrayal was being assembled behind the scenes. Her talk of protecting her tender-aged children now looks like something else entirely, a plan to secure her own dynasty. She didn't want family unity for love. She wanted obedience, because obedient wives don't question the fine print. Together, Kody and Robyn weren't building a family legacy. They were constructing a monarchy, a financial empire where every other branch of the family was cut off. And when you realize that, everything clicks into place. The lies, the manipulation, the sudden estrangement. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a decade-long con, a legal heist disguised as love. Maddie's confirmation isn't just gossip. It's the missing key, the one that unlocks the truth behind the Brown family's collapse. Because if this is true, Kody Brown didn't just betray his wives. He erased his own bloodline, trading legacy for control and love for ownership. The fallout? Catastrophic. For the OG-13, it's not just about money. It's about being told by their own father that they never truly mattered. For Janelle, it's war. For Christine, vindication. And for Meri, it's the final, irreversible end of whatever hope she still held. The Brown Empire didn't fall apart. It was systematically dismantled, one signature at a time. This betrayal is so absolute, so deeply personal, that it could shatter any final thread Meri still has tying her to Kody Brown. To realize she was tricked into signing away her only child's inheritance, that she was manipulated not just emotionally, but legally, would be the ultimate insult. It would confirm that Kody's love for her was never genuine affection. It was leverage, a resource he could exploit when it suited his plans. But this time, Meri wouldn't retreat. This time, she wouldn't cry. What we'd see is a version of Meri we've never seen before. Not the quiet, heartbroken woman in the corner, but a woman consumed by incandescent rage. Her entire journey has been about reclaiming her worth, and this betrayal might be the spark that finally turns her grief into action. Her new mission would be crystal clear, to right the wrong done to Leon. And in that pursuit, something extraordinary could happen. The three OG wives, Christine, Janelle, and Meri, women who were once pitted against each other by Kody's manipulative games, could finally unite. Not as rivals, but as soldiers in the same war. Their shared goal to undo the heirloom hoax and reclaim the legacy for the 13 children who were cut out of it. But how do you fight back when your enemy used the law as his weapon? If they signed the deeds willingly, if that document really does contain a right of survivorship clause, then undoing it becomes a near impossible battle. Kody and Robyn's defense would be simple. They knew what they were signing. They'd argue that everyone agreed this was the best way to protect the family. They'd dismiss the wives' outrage as nothing more than seller's remorse. So, to win, the OG wives would need to prove something extraordinary, that they were fraudulently induced to sign. That Kody and Robyn lied about the contract's true purpose. That every signature was obtained under false pretenses. And that means war. A brutal public court battle. Depositions, discovery, every private text, every financial record, every buried family secret dragged into the light. The court wouldn't just hear a story about property. It would witness the dissection of an empire. Imagine the depositions. Janelle's attorney asking Kody under oath, "Mr. Brown, did you ever inform my client that her share would not transfer to her children, but to you and Robyn?" He'd have to either confess or commit perjury. Imagine Robyn on the stand, tears streaming down her face, but this time they hold no power. Not in front of a judge, not under oath. And the nanny? She could be subpoenaed. What secrets might she reveal about the quiet conversations, the documents passed across kitchen tables, the whispers behind closed doors? Each new leak, each insider account, would paint the same picture. A husband and wife working hand in hand to strip three families of their future. And Maddie Brush's tearful revelation? That was just the opening shot. The explosion of a landmine planted years ago. Because this isn't just family drama anymore. This is corporate warfare. The so-called family we've been watching for over a decade wasn't a spiritual journey. It was a hostile takeover. Kody Brown wasn't the head of a household. He was the CEO of a brand. And when that brand stopped serving him, he consolidated his assets, merging his life, his money, and his loyalty into one final partnership with Robyn. The others? Liquidated. The heirloom hoax didn't just rob the wives of property, it dismantled the illusion that sister wives ever represented unity. It exposed the truth, that beneath the smiles, the confessions, and the TLC taglines, this was never about family. It was about control. Kody and Robyn built a financial fortress on the bones of trust. And Coyote Pass, once the promised land, is now the graveyard of that trust. A monument to betrayal. Christine's house sale. Janelle's savings. Meri's B&B profits. None of it was Kody's, it was theirs. And yet, somehow, through manipulation and deceit, he turned all that collective labor into a private empire for two. Even my sister wife's closet, that infamous business flop, now looks like part of the pattern, a trial run to see how much they could take under the guise of family investment. It wasn't a business failure. It was psychological conditioning. It taught Kody and Robyn that loyalty could be monetized, that devotion could be weaponized. And once they learned that lesson, there was no turning back. The emotional warfare that followed was just the cover story. Kody's rants about disobedient wives, his crusade for loyalty, his disdain for the older kids, it all fits the pattern. He had to justify what he was doing. He had to convince himself that the people he was betraying deserved it. Robyn's role was even darker. While Kody roared, Robyn wept. She weaponized her fragility. Her tears became commands. Every sob redirected Kody's anger away from her and toward the women who dared question her motives. She never had to be the villain because she had Kody to play executioner. And the saddest part? Their children, Dayton, Aurora, Brianna, Solomon, Ariella, they're the unwitting heirs to this empire of lies. They'll inherit the land, but not the truth. They'll grow up believing their father was a wronged man, their mother a saint. They'll be taught that the OG kids were ungrateful, bitter, undeserving. Kody and Robyn didn't just steal inheritance. They stole family. For the older children, Logan, Maddie, Garrison, Gabe, Mykelti, Aspen, Isabel, this revelation is nothing short of soul-crushing. It turns every memory, every moment of love, into a question mark. Was it ever real? Or was it just performance while their futures were being signed away? And when the legal war erupts, and it will, the world will be watching. TLC won't be able to hide behind clever editing. The truth will spill into the public domain, one subpoena at a time. Because this isn't just another chapter in Sister Wives. This is the final reckoning. Coyote Pass, once the dream of unity, now stands as the monument of betrayal. A kingdom for two built on the graves of 13 forgotten heirs. And as the dust settles, one thing becomes painfully clear. Kody and Robyn may have won the land, but they've lost everything else. They sit in their empty castle, surrounded by acres of silence, haunted by the ghosts of the family they destroyed. And the rest of us, we're left asking one final question. Is this the most cold-blooded betrayal in reality TV history? Because if it is, the battle for Coyote Pass has only just begun.